Cips clips.
And remember, citizens, always subscribe and hit the bell. Everything will be well with 1995. Plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Why does a dog wag its tail? Because a dog is smarter than its tail. If the tail were smarter, the tail would wag the dog. Wag the dog in politics is the act of creating diversion from a damaging issue. Here at Wag the Dog News, the tail doesn't wag the dog. Enjoy.
Cips clips.
And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the bell, everything will be well. 1995. Plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. And that's the meaning of life. Anyway, welcome one and all. Sorry for the fucking sound delay. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully these are all good. So, shout out to Magic Magnets. I'd like to say sorry for not being able to show you around the sounds and sights of the old Glasgow. We will sort it out for next time, buddy. No problem at all. I forgot that my mum's getting new windows in, and I need to whip down our blinds before now and the start of the Rangers game. So, come on, the Rangers. That's all I'm going to say. So, what I was trying to show you, was, for whatever reason, I thought that RT would be showing news at the top of the hour, but they seem to be running an hour behind for whatever reason. They've not moved their clocks. So we'll come back at the top of the hour at 2 bells and catch up with some RT between now and then. I think it's only fair. Touch base with the BBCs again. Because I'm going to be touching base with the RT, go to the complete opposite, polar opposite, and touch base with the BBCs. So that's what I'm going to do today. And remember, if you do appreciate Wag the Dog News, stick a wee thumbs up. It is much appreciated and it makes me sleep easier at night. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get rid of that wee woman. The wee woman, I'm going to get rid of her. And I'm going to restart the program. Woohoo! And the West isn't even touching on that is where the Azov battalion, the Nazi battalion, the Nazi fighters that have been integrated into the National Guard of Ukraine out of necessity. Nobody's mentioning that as their stronghold, and it's their soldiers that are barricaded in, and for whatever reason, keeping children there. I don't know why. Alrighty, Rab and A from Australia. Bananas. Come on, Gels! Manager. The country's fucked, and don't we know it? Ukraine's the bread basket of Europe. Woohoo! Oh, thank you very much,
They've been at emergency rates.
Roberto.
Look at the historic average for the Bank
My
of
bad,
England's rate,
my bad.
7.2%. And then if you look at the highest it's
I'll fill in.
been
I'll
1979,
catch his up. He went blah 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 blah
Interest rates
blah
when
blah
inflation
blah.
was last this high 30 years ago were nearly 10%. But economists
Look at
don't think
that.
today's still super low rates will get anywhere near that.
Markets are expecting the interest rate to reach 2.5% by the end of this year, which we think is probably too high.
Raising interest rates is meant to cool down the economy by making it more expensive to borrow cash
Thank
to
you,
spend or
gents.
invest. But in the streets outside the shop in central
Roberto,
Nottingham,
Rab,
businesses are
A
already
from
struggling
Australia.
with tight consumer purse strings.
I'm going to give it this year to see if it picks up any. If not,
We're talking about
Yeah.
interest rates.
well, I've got to think twice. I can't keep living on my savings.
The risk in the coming months is that we go through the worst inflation in decades in the midst of a sharp economic slowdown. If higher interest rates are meant to put consumers off spending, soaring energy bills may already have done that job. Andy Verity, BBC News.
Well, our economics editor Faisal Islam is outside the Bank of England. It's the bank's forecast.
Do you want to hear something
Faisal,
funny?
that's also
I met
making
that
the
guy
news.
down in Bilderberg.
Yes,
when
the decision to raise interest rates up to 1% is very
Bilderberg was at
important for
Watford,
savers,
whatever
for
year it was.
borrowers, all that sort of stuff. But they also bring out a forecast
He
every 3 months,
was
and it shows
channel. He was working for Channel 4 at the time,
Bank of England,
and he came down to Bilderberg to cover it for Channel 4, and he was walking about in a big sheep pen and all that. And me and this guy called, I didn't know his real name, but what was his YouTube name? UFO Hunter UK. I'll give you a clue. He was into UFOs.
To shrink next year, to contract, to be smaller at the end of 2023.
Me and him pure started asking him hundreds of pure conspiratorial questions, man. Pretty sure it's on fucking the audio of it is somewhere.
9 months to a year.
I would be surprised if I didn't stick it up my channel, man, which would be
and
funny.
yet at the same time they have this challenge over inflation, a real tightrope.
Oh,
for
the
Bank of
memories
England
of the
to
good
try
old
to
days,
walk,
man.
To rein in these high rates of inflation and stop them from occurring sort of for the next 3 or 4 years, and yet at the same time
He certainly wouldn't want to sit across for him at a restaurant, wouldn't you know? He's got that kind of mouth that he looks like he would just slabber,
been as acute as this before,
spit his food
and it
all
reflects
over
the
you.
very real problems in households affording those energy bills and food bills going up too.
Faisal, thank you
Aye,
very
mate,
much.
he was his fat back then. He
The
was
British
like
energy giant Shell has announced its highest ever quarterly profits. The
typical
company
fat
made
dude
nearly
like
£7.3 billion in the first 3 months of this year.
I shall
That's
stop
a
myself
threefold increase
saying
on the
what
same
I was going
period
to
in
say
2021. Well, our business
for the
editor Simon
power
Jack
of
is here. So Simon,
well,
how
it
did
is
Shell
good.
make so much money?
Nutty
What
professor.
are they going to do with it?
Well, as Faisal was just saying there, the increased costs
Oh,
of
it's,
things
I
like
forgot
oil,
what I used to do
gas,
for the
which
economy
filters
shit.
through to
Up a
petrol
bit,
and our heating
up a
bills,
bit, down a
meant
bit,
that
down a bit,
companies like
up
Shell,
a
as BPA did this
bit,
week,
up a bit,
have
up a
made
bit, down,
bumper
down, down,
profits. We
down.
saw
They're making
oil,
profits,
crude
but
oil
they need
prices
it for
already
this,
high
and
at
they're
the end
making
of last
profits,
year.
and they need
Gas
it for
prices
that.
already high at the end of last year. As the world economy emerged from a COVID-related coma, if you like, were amplified by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. People worried that supplies from the world's second biggest oil exporter, the
Yeah,
world's
thank
biggest
you,
gas
world
exporter,
leaders, for
would be either
taking us
shut
into
off
a war
or
with
boycotted,
the
sent
bread
there's
basket
international
of
bidding
Europe.
war for prices, which means that
And
they have
at
made
the
more
time
money than
when
they
food
ever
prices
have
are
in their
skyrocketing
150-year
gas
history.
and
As to what they're going to do with it,
electricity
they're going to give a lot
prices
of
are
money to their
skyrocketing,
shareholders, £4.5 billion
taking us
this
into a
quarter,
war and
£4.5
trying to
billion
cut us
next,
off
and they'll
from
do- and
the
which
largest,
includes,
if not
by
the
way,
largest supplier
millions
of
pension
gas
savers.
in the
They're
world.
also pledging to invest between them,
Joe
BP and
90
Shell,
is
over
back. I know,
£40
mate, he's
billion
like-
pounds in energy infrastructure over the next 7 to 10 years, and that will be people will be watching very closely to make sure they fulfil those commitments.
Simon, thank you very much. Simon Jack.
Ugh.
Ukraine's army says
Slimy
Russia is
bastard.
trying to destroy the last group of soldiers trapped in the Azovstal steelworks plant in Mariupol. For the latest, we can join my colleague Ben Brown, who's in Kiev. Ben.
Right, this is hilarious. So they want you to believe that there's 290 civilians bunkered down in a fortified bunker, and they're still continue to stay bunkered down even though they've been given ample opportunity to leave. Now, granted, the condition of leaving is the Russians vetting them to make sure that because the Russians want to kill the Nazi bastards, that they're there to kill and not let them go, or at the very least capture a few of them and film them, show people there are genuine fucking bona fide fucking Nazis down there. So like the truth always lies somewhere in the middle.
Yes, Martine, it does look like this could be the end game, really, at the Azovstal steelworks in Mariupol, where about 2,000 Ukrainian troops are making what is really a desperate last stand. They are the final pocket of resistance in Mariupol, and alongside them in the bunkers there are about 200 civilians, and that includes 30 children. Well, the Ukrainian commander there has said that difficult, bloody battles are
Why is there 200 civilians hanging around with the soldiers, and why are they keeping 20 children, or however many children they said is still there, when they have been given the opportunity to leave? I don't get it. You can argue the wrongs and rights of the war and whether Russia should or shouldn't be there and doing what they are or aren't doing. But here's the reality. Russia are doing what they're doing, and they're giving people the opportunity to leave. So, is there 20 children still there? Is that bullshit? If there is 20 children, why are they there? Are they just getting kept there as human shields? Some sort of a propaganda tool? So the BBC can bounce on and spew this shit? It's war. Russia's and these soldiers, 2,000 soldiers. So that must be 2,000 of the Azov Brigade. I didn't know how big or small they were or weren't. I knew that they weren't the majority. Are they? I don't know. My opinion is that they're not the majority of the Ukrainian armed forces or whatnot. They're a very small minority. But a needed minority because they were known for their hardened combat readiness and shit. Anyway, I digress. But don't come up to you. Don't come up with your own points of view.
Currently being fought at Azovstal right now, although Russia denies that it is trying to storm the plant, and it claims there's actually a 3-day ceasefire to evacuate civilians. Joe Inwood has this report.
We could be entering the last days of the battle for Mariupol. The Azovstal steelworks, where Ukrainian fighters are making their final stand, has been pounded from above for days. Now it seems the assault from the ground is underway.
It's already the second day since the enemy broke into the plant. There are heavy, bloody battles. I'm proud of my soldiers who are making superhuman efforts to contain the pressure of the enemy. The situation
Let's see his
is extremely
uniform.
difficult. But no matter what,
Let's see his tattoos, see if he is really a neo-Nazi. That's what I want to know.
In short, the fight for Azovstal will be a fight to the
Nazi or not?
But
should
it's not
be a
just
Saturday night
Ukrainian
game show.
soldiers stuck in the sprawling tunnels and nuclear bunkers of this huge complex. More than 200 civilians are also thought to be sheltering there. Russia has announced a temporary ceasefire for a few hours each day to let them escape. The Ukrainians say they want the same thing.
We hope to continue rescuing people from Azovstal, from Mariupol. There are still civilians left there, women, children. To save them, we need to continue the ceasefire. We're ready to take part. It will just take time to lift people out of those basements, out of those underground shelters.
Late last night, a group of evacuees did arrive in the town of Zaporizhia, but they were from the wider city, not the besieged steelworks. If the plant does fall, that will mean all of Mariupol is under Russian control. As well as giving President Putin something to call a victory, it will free up thousands of Russian forces to take part in the assault on the Donbass. So far, progress south is reported to be very slow and uneven, while movement north has been paused altogether. That could be because the Donbass is where many of Ukraine's best trained and most experienced soldiers are based.
Yeah, the best trained and most experienced soldiers based there because the war has been going on for fucking 8 fucking years. This shit didn't happen fucking however many months ago, we're told.
And they're digging in. But this war isn't just taking place on the ground in the east. Yesterday, Russia hit a crucial crossing over the Dnieper River. It followed strikes the day before here in Lviv, where they targeted 3 electrical substations. They're trying to take out Ukraine's rail network and stop the flow of weapons from the west to the east. But it's not all going one way. Ukraine is said to have destroyed this huge Russian oil depot in occupied Donetsk. This war is as much about logistics as anything else, and both sides are drawing blood. Joe Inwood, BBC News, Lviv.
Well, as Russia accelerates its attacks in the Donbass in the east of Ukraine, other areas are coming under fire, including the town of Dnipro in the centre-east. It was shaken last night by missile strikes which damaged a railway bridge there. Now, our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette, is in Dnipro. Just bring us up to date, Lise, with what's been happening there.
Yes, Ukrainians are constantly reminded that even though Russia's main military
Oh, it's Bagface Lady with the undistinct spook accent.
lies southeast of where we are
Gordy, 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 smorgy, welcome to the BBC. I get the smorgy, burger, gordy, 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 gordy. It's like, I think that's the accent you get when you're like, just like a spook from Test Tube to Bag Lady. Bagface Lady.
Where in this country is safe. So here in Dnipro, in the center east, after what have been weeks of relative calm, last night several cruise missiles slammed into the center of the city, damaging, as you say, a bridge crossing the Dnipro River. You can see it behind me, also damaging a railway.
Yep. The West are fucking trying to get tanks and armoured vehicles and all that to the Ukrainians. And the Russians are just like, right, okay, I'm going to blow up all the fucking bridges, you dickheads. How are you going to get them where they need to get going? And I'd like to say, by the way, as well, I was kind of right at the beginning. I said that Russia just wanted to take a big slice of the right hand of the country, which has panned out to be looking very accurate. But I was wrong about to the extent. I thought they would push up to the river because that was a natural kind of barrier. But then I think that was too much to ask, in the sense that at that point my geography was about Ukraine was not the best, and I didn't realise that Kiev was right up next to that river whose name escapes me. That river behind her. Which would mean that probably a territory that too hard for the Russians to hold on to.
Facility. It shook the building where we were in the heart of the city at that time, underlining again that alongside its focus on the east, Russia is now targeting, as we heard from Joe Inwood, critical infrastructure. Dnipro is a logistics and a humanitarian hub. All the transport links go through here. Main aid agencies are based here. But we're hearing from them that they're preparing a plan B if Russia starts to focus even more on places like Dnipro, seeing them as a critical link in both the transport and the supply structure needed to keep fueling that war for Ukraine in the southeast. We really have a sense that this war is entering a more dangerous and deadly phase.
All right, Lise, thank you very much indeed. Lise Doucette there in Dnipro, our chief international correspondent. Well, on the front lines of this war here in Ukraine, thousands of people remain trapped in really horrifying conditions in the Donbass region. Rescue operations to free some of those who are trapped by volunteers are taking place. And our correspondent Andrew Harding has been hearing from some of those volunteers and the people whose lives they are trying to save.
They sit in stunned silence on the school bus that just rescued them from hell. Still weary with terror. 2 other buses with them didn't make it back. It was so scary, is all she can manage to say. Thousands here are running the Russian gauntlet, trying to escape from the Kremlin's new offensive in eastern Ukraine. But imagine escaping this and then going back in again and again. That's what a group of remarkable volunteers are doing here in the Donbass. Including the man who filmed this, a British maths teacher, Guy Osborne, who came out last month to lend a hand.
We've been going quite close to the front and evacuating quite a lot of
volunteer intelligence gatherer. Then if he gets caught with the Russians, he's got the plausible deniability of saying that he was just fucking delivering aid and all that. I mean, how buttoned up the back do the people need you to be to think that this guy was a maths teacher and woke up one morning and thought it was a good idea to go to the front lines in Ukraine? Do you know what I mean? Like, this guy could walk down his high street and see people worse off than the fucking people in the front lines of Ukraine, starving, fucking dying, the rest of it, the whole 9 yards. But he needs to go to the opposite end of the fucking world. And of course these people are always like, oh yes, what, snooty, what? Yes, I'm only here to help. What? Right, I'm not saying they aren't doing what they're saying that they're doing, but they're intelligence gathering as well. Where are the troops? Where are the Russian troops? What positions? Where's the artillery? Where's it hitting? Who's where? Where's what? Where's Wally? The whole 11.5 yards.
Bedridden people, a couple of blind people, people with Zimmer frames. It's quite a risk you're taking. I'm quite scared most of the time.
Fucking get out of Dodge, you dumb fuck.
This footage was filmed
in the
by
afternoon,
the driver
Devon.
of another school bus, one of the two that went missing. Mikhail Pankov is a local history teacher. Last Friday, he left for a rescue mission and never came back. Then,
what is it with these teachers fucking sticking on fucking tights and capes and going and fucking saving the world?
a surprise announcement on Russian television. Mikhail has been captured alive. Then another surprise. While we're speaking to his wife, Yulia, her phone rings. It's her husband, still held captive, but calling.
Oh my God, the big bad Russians are actually letting the guy use a telephone. Oh, dearie me.
With important news. He spoke about a prisoner exchange, she says. My husband said the Russians might swap him for prisoners held by our government. Soon, I hope. So maybe everything will work.
That's it, Rab. You could get fed up doing calculus.
Perhaps it will.
So he's like,
but for others,
this abacus just really isn't doing it for me anymore. I'm going to swap my abacus for an AK-47.
This is as close
Makes
as
perfect sense.
Right now, you hear the boom of artillery in the distance and some shells landing just the other side of this field. We've been told that all rescue efforts have now been suspended because of the danger, but that still leaves something like 2,000 civilians trapped in this town, and we're told many more civilians caught in other frontline towns.
All evidence of a slow, grinding conflict with no end in sight. Andrew Harding, BBC
We'll never
News
touch
in
on
Eastern
the
Ukraine.
citizens that are on the opposing side that are getting hurt with Ukrainian
shit. From the
shit.
team here in Kyiv. Martin, it's back to you.
It doesn't exist.
Ben, thank you very much.
Non-existent.
The World Health Organization estimates that a staggering 15 million excess deaths occurred globally due to the COVID pandemic. The figure shows how many more people died than would have been expected based on previous year's death rates. Our global health correspondent Naomi Grimley reports.
In the global chaos of COVID, makeshift funeral pyres and hasty burials around the world have become all too familiar. But have some countries undercounted the number of lives lost to the pandemic?
Oh God. Do we need another war to fucking sort this shit out again?
Registered by the government as COVID-19. Our NGO brings bodies to be cremated directly from homes of victims. The government only counts related deaths of victims who die in a hospital.
The World Health Organization asked a panel of international experts to calculate the global death toll due to the crisis.
In the first 2 years of the pandemic worldwide, it was thought around 5.5 million people died from COVID.
I mean, like, I understand why this information is valuable information, but why is it general public news other than to just scare people? It means nothing to your average fucking Joe.
More like 15 million.
Ooh, it's a tragedy. That's just there to scare you. Could be, maybe, up to, possibly could. My abacus could have broke. We'll never know. But there is one person out of 9 million experts that say the abacus could have broke.
And if we don't count, we will miss the opportunity to be better prepared for the next time.
Some countries stand out.
Reminds me of a
The
really funny
estimate for
joke that I
excess
can't
deaths
say.
in Russia is 3.5 times its official count. In India, the WHO believes deaths were 10 times what was recorded, though Delhi has disputed the calculations. In Africa, countries like
My
Somalia
abacus
only have
is better than
sketchy
your
data.
abacus.
So the experts admit there's a lot of uncertainty about how many may have died.
Urgently, we need better data collection systems. It's a disgrace that people can be born and die and have no record of their passing. So we really need to invest in countries' registration systems so we can get accurate and timely data.
This report confirms that places such as the US, Britain, Spain and Germany all had excess mortality rates above the global average in this crisis. A reminder that the pandemic was tough even for the wealthiest countries on the planet. Naomi Grimley.
I've never seen those figures, actually. And that's a good way of actually shifting through the shite. I'm trying to think of... And these figures are available. Excess deaths, I think the way they frame it. And these figures have been available, obviously, pre-pandemic and stuff. And it kind of... It reports on if there's deaths above the expected average. And I've not seen those figures. And those figures would be a hell of a lot more accurate in the sense that they would be more rounded, that they would include people throwing themselves off of buildings because of lockdown and whatnot, you know. So we would just have excess deaths, like with the lockdown and COVID, how many deaths above average, above what we would normally expect, pandemic aside, lockdown aside, are we having, or did we have? And those figures will be available because they're alluding to them there.
BBC News.
The time is 19 minutes past 1. Our top story this lunchtime. Interest rates rise to their highest level since 2009 as the Bank of England tries to curb inflation. Coming up, the new boss of Sports Direct warns of cost pressures facing the business.
And coming up on Reporting Scotland, we'll have more on what those interest rates mean for you. And Rangers are just one game from a potential European final to take on RB Leipzig tonight.
Hard on fucking time. I'll be honest though, like, I don't enjoy the games.
Scammers have set up hundreds
I look
of
forward
fake
to
charity
them,
websites
and then when they're on, I do not enjoy them. It's not. It's like the old firm games. They're not enjoyable to watch. Not if you give a shit.
Including a video and logo
like maybe if you go 3-0 up and you start stroking the ball about and taking the piss, then you might start enjoying it. But until then, it's squeaky bum time, man. It's just not enjoyable.
War, chaos. Ukrainian refugees needing
shelter
and
how
safety.
you doing, my man?
Feeding off the
I don't know, do you enjoy watching the old films, mate?
Websites appearing all over the internet. Take this one. It looks professional.
The only problem is it's fake. There's no charity registration number, and as for the address of the head office, it doesn't even exist.
But there is a phone number.
I just wanted to ask you a quick question about what the money's being spent on.
There are many refugees, so for food, clothes, travel.
How long have you been going as a charity? So he's hung up on me, and like many of these sites, most of these sites, there's no evidence at all that any of the money is actually getting to Ukraine.
Here's another. It's stolen the logo of Save the Children and one of their videos.
So does this make you angry?
Yeah, it absolutely does. We've got the generosity of the British public.
Yes,
which is being
we should be they're getting in on our scam.
The children that we work with around the world who are not going to get the support that they need because money is being taken away from the
do you remember Russia throwing out all the Western NGOs?
It's awful.
They didn't do that because they are big fat fucking demons who want people to die and don't want people to have charity. They done it because they understood that most of them, if not all, are like Western fucking intelligence services on some level.
Little children in your country
You could lick her and stick her to the window,
So
couldn't
who's
you?
behind these sites and where are they? Take SaveLifeDirect.com. It says it's raised $100,000.
But do you think, buddy, a Rebo through the middle and
who's in Abuja in Nigeria.
Saka on the wing?
It says it's raising money for Ukraine.
I'm thinking Saka through the middle, man, for a wee bit. Give him a shot.
But it's not, is it? It's not.
He's never really had a prolonged period to show what he can do in that position, man.
Really? You say on your website you've already raised $100,000.
Aye, Method. I think most, if not all, of the NGOs are
any of your money is
corrupt
going to
on. Definitely corrupt in the sense that people will be making a fucking fortune out of them.
After we spoke, he took
but
the
corrupt in the
website
sense of like intelligence gathering, getting where like governments can't, so on and so forth. Russia didn't kick them out for no reason.
To make money. Angus Crawford, BBC News.
It was
the new boss of
part
Britain's
of the
biggest
intelligence
sports retailer,
warfare.
Sports Direct says he's planning to open up to 10 new flagship stores. Michael Murray has taken over as chief executive of Fraser's
That
Group.
guy fucking tried to screw over
In his
Rangers.
first interview in the top job, he warns of cost pressures facing the business and price rises ahead. Our business correspondent Emma Simpson reports.
Aye, mate. Maybe we'll get a wee half out of him or something, you know.
Store. And there's also
hopefully we'll get a wee half out of Roof.
It's cost 10 million to open this store, which is a huge investment in the high street.
Aye, mate. The only hoops I like are the spaghetti hoops, man.
He now has one of the biggest jobs in British
the only
retail,
hoops I like.
and he's betting big on the high street. He wants more of these stores with brands,
spaghetti hoops and
esports
sausages.
experience.
Do you see yourself as a moderniser then?
You could call me that. It's really about taking all different aspects of the business and making it fit for purpose and simple for the consumer to shop.
But what about the founder and future father-in-law, Mike Ashley?
Is he still pulling the strings?
No, Mike is not pulling the strings.
She could get a
We've
job
worked in
in
a partnership, very
Elfland, couldn't
collaborative
she?
approach over the last 2 to 3 years, and then from the day I became CEO, the final decision lies with me.
And that includes cost pressures running high. He says there's not much he can do about price rises.
In terms of the pricing of the product, we are very much at mercy to our brand partners. They decide the price they want to sell the goods for, and we will increase the prices as and when the brands ask us or recommend us to do so.
How tough do you think it's going to get?
It's definitely going to get tough, but I believe that we're in the right segments. I think people will spend less, but they will definitely spend on the items which they need. And which is aspirational
24 minutes
to them.
A new era for this retailing giant. There's certainly a change of image. If he doubles the share price, Michael Murray is in line for £100 million bonus. Emma Simpson,
Spread the
BBC
wealth,
News,
man. Give you a wee bit of
Birmingham.
BBC Scotland news.
Voters have been
Oh,
heading
no,
to
it's
the
not.
polls today to have their say in a host of elections across the UK. In England, 146 councils are holding elections, including in major cities like Sheffield.
Oh, that's why
Birmingham,
there's
and
no
London.
politics
In Scotland
on the
and Wales,
news today.
4 council areas are holding elections, and in Northern
You're not allowed
Ireland,
to
people
talk
have
about
been
politics
voting to
on
elect
days of
90
election.
MLAs who sit in the Northern Ireland Assembly. Buckingham Palace says the Queen will miss this season's royal garden parties. A spokesman says she'll be represented by other members of the royal family.
I know,
Now, there
Method.
was a dramatic finish to the Champions League
50
semi-final
pence,
last
mate.
night as Real Madrid stunned Manchester City with a late double before winning the tie in extra time. Real Madrid will now face Liverpool in the final in Paris later this month. Our sports correspondent Ollie Foster reports from Madrid.
This is going to hurt Manchester City. The night a Champions League final didn't just slip away, but was ripped from their grasp. Real Madrid with a comeback to rival any in the history of this competition.
Yeah, it's tough for us, so we cannot
was fucked
deny
up,
it. So
though.
we're so close to arrive Champions League final, and unfortunately we could not. You could not finish when we're close.
City only needed a draw in Madrid when Riyad Mahrez lashed in a goal with 20 minutes left to play. That would surely
Thank you,
see them
Real.
through. Jack
50
Grealish
free
was so
quid.
close to another, not to worry. Time was almost up. There's always time. In the final minute, the Real substitute Rodrigo gave them hope. A minute later, Bedlam in the Bernabeu, the Brazilian again. Extra time then, and a penalty. Karim Benzema fouled by Diaz. The Frenchman was
Only
the
the
coolest of
Greens
the
have been round.
60,000 who would party long into the Madrid night. But what of City? Pep Guardiola must make sure this crushing defeat doesn't derail their Premier League defence. Guillaume Balagues followed his fellow Spaniard's career from the start and spoke to him last night.
When everybody is down here and they were on the floor, you saw the players, they were, you know, some of them crying as well. He's got to be here, and he's got to be saying, we just got to focus at the job in hand.
City's wait for a first Champions League title goes on. Real
that's what I
will be
hear when
chasing
Spanish people
14th.
talk.
Their last came 4 years ago against Liverpool. The rematch in Paris could be very special, but what happened here last night will take some beating. Ollie Foster, BBC News, Madrid.
Spring is taking root earlier. A Wigan study has found the season has moved forward by 3 weeks compared to the 1940s. Great tit birds in Whiteham Woods near Oxford have been laying eggs earlier than ever. Scientists who have special permission to access their nests are blaming climate change. Our science correspondent Victoria Gill reports.
I must be a clairvoyant man. I predicted Real Madrid winning last night.
And moths. And in one woodland site
in 90 and
mile,
time, and I predicted this was going to be about climate change.
Because Whiteham Wood near Oxford is a very special site of scientific interest.
Is it officially the most studied woodland in the world, do you think? I mean, it certainly must be one of them.
This year marks the 75th anniversary of the
Just
Whiteham
the militant way that they're going about it, man, and just the unacceptance of like even any other discussion or
1947. And we're about to meet the
concept idea of bringing anything up, and just the sheer demonisation of it, and the relentlessness of their fucking shoving it down your throat makes you stand back and think, whoa, you protest too much. Why are you going so militant about this shit?
Ugly.
They're sort of cute, ugly.
Yeah.
It's precisely because this has been a continuous study for all those decades that researchers have been able to see.
And who did they get permission off? The almighty, the all-seeing, to touch a bird?
The tits here, we've seen quite a marked shift in the timing of egg laying. So they're now laying about 3 weeks earlier. The tits here are actually managing to track the other members of their food chain quite well. So both the caterpillars and the eggs have also shifted their timing earlier. So the whole sort of food chain has shifted earlier in spring.
The woods were bequeathed to Oxford University by a wealthy local family back in 1942. Since then, they've been a site of
some sort of a
different
tits. I think they're grey tits.
But the longest running is the Great Tit Study, which Chris Perrins has been involved in for more than half a century.
I think she studies all forms of tits.
What are your reflections on?
But she's funny. She doesn't look like she doesn't initially look like a tit studier.
Where the trees or the caterpillars or the birds,
you know, with the long hair. But maybe she's a lipstick tit studier.
A question
that is still a big question to answer, and a very interesting one.
The work here goes on, and whenever spring happens, it's a busy season for the birds and the scientists. Because as our climate changes, these rare, decades-long studies that track exactly how the natural world responds become more important as time goes on. Victoria Gill, BBC News, Whiteham Wood.
So how long have we been doing this?
10
years! The worst shit ever! You've been studying it for 10 years. The world's a wee bit older than that.
And of course the showers yesterday, they were rather sporadic.
Ah, come on BBC. I'm getting used to the weather girls on Talk TV and GB News. And they do it old styly, man. You need to go back to the old fucking tits and arse weather girls. Come on.
And really, whether you see the sunshine or not will depend on whether you see those high temperatures the next couple of days. But you can see where the rainfall is at the moment, might brighten up across Northern Ireland. We've got a few showers potentially across England and Wales. Fair weather cloud building up, not as angry as the showers we had yesterday, but nevertheless there'll be the odd one here and there. Mostly dry with some good spells of sunshine. And where we have that sunshine in the south, that's where we've got high levels of tree pollen, grass pollen season starting as well. But the rains will hang out in the northwest of Scotland, so cooler here. East of the Grampians, 17 or 18, and eastern parts of Northern Ireland.
Rain on the
widely across England and Wales with more sunshine and the high teens. And that's the sort of temperature we will see over the coming few days as our Azores High continues to establish itself, pushing southwesterly winds across our shores.
dog.
And as I say, it's whether you see the sunshine or not.
You're spot on what you're saying there, mate. But there's many more examples of that happening. Like, I know you're using one of them, but like, there's numerous ones. And I'm like every year warning of, it's going to happen now, it's going to happen now. It should have been dead fucking 20 years ago, according to some folk. According to some doomsayers. Oh, it's too late, we need action now.
Northern and Western Wales, but clearing
you
from
control,
Northern Ireland and Scotland for a brighter and potentially warmer afternoon here too, 70s and 18s in the sunshine.
You control what the climate change people want to control. You control economies. It's as simple as that. It's funny that the people that jump up and down most about climate change are the people that ran all over the world, raping, pillaging, burning, shagging, cutting down, cutting up, fucking anything and everything they want to make fucking fortunes, which they're still living off to this day. And they're now bouncing around and going like that. Oh, Mr. Chinaman, you can't fucking burn that bit of coal. You're going to kill the world.
But we're losing the cloud on the east coast and the onshore.
See this, it's like, here's the thing, right? See the water level? See sea level?
Thank you very much.
It's the same all over the motherfucking world. Do you want to know why? Because it's sea level. It doesn't change. In Australia, the sea is the same level as in Britain, and in America, and in South Africa. All over the motherfucking world, sea levels are motherfucking same. They keep telling us that the fucking sea levels are rising. And I don't know about you, the River Clyde is in the exact same fucking spot that it's been in all my fucking life. The beaches that I've went to all my fucking life, same.
Interest rates rise.
Every bit of fucking wetland that I've went to all my fucking life. The sea is in the same. Squirrel. The sea is in the same motherfucking place. Now, unless I'm walking about in a mad wee fucking climate bubble of my own, where I take the sea level, clips Houstonian sea level with me, then the sea level around the fucking world is staying in the same fucking spot. Well, we're getting told Armageddon's not fucking happening.
0.75%.
Something's no fucking happening. Something's no right. I smell shite. And then if I smell shite, I'm thinking, right, what's this getting done for? What's this getting done for? Right, okay. When I get into the conspiratorial game, one of the things doing the rounds was the Economist projecting China and India to be the number 1 and 2 economies come 2050. That's when PNAC and all that came out, which by the way is still very much in play to this day. It's the Kagans, part of PNAC. Victoria Newland married one of the Kagans, part of PNAC. If you don't know what PNAC is, Project for a New American Century, that was the document that called for a 9/11 like event, a Pearl Harbor style event, which happened when 9/11. Which some would say would be the epicentre of fucking the mess the world's in right now, as America tries to fuck up China and India to make sure that their economies are the number 1 and 2 come 2050. I mean, I don't know, man. I think they're right. I think if you look close enough, you can see what's going on here. Now, the thing is, if you've got a pile of cash and you're sitting here in the West, you want to fuck up China. You want to fuck up India. You don't want the Chinas and the Indians fucking coming along and fucking your fucking economy and your fucking shindig up. So you're on board with all this shit if you're fucking wise enough to see it. So there's so many people that are aboard this fucked up train, quite happy to get on board, man, because they're protecting what's theirs and
London, so
whatnot.
For the first
anyway,
months of the year, tripling
and relax.
£1 billion. Well, it makes the point that if you're going to get prices under control without depending on Russian gas, there's a need to source that from elsewhere. So they're emphasising the potential for gas supply from the North Sea, including the Jackdaw field to the east of Aberdeen. Permission to develop there, that was blocked last year because of environmental concerns. Shell wants to see that unblocked if gas supplies are to be replaced.
Cut black! Okay, Douglas Fraser.
Yay!
The Rangers manager, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, says an emotional night lies ahead for the club as they aim to reach the Europa League final. The Ibrox side trail 1-0 going into the home leg of their semi-final with RB Leipzig. Our reporter Jonathan Sutherland is at Ibrox.
I mean, what fucking kind of shitty fucking bullcrap fucking pathetic excuse for a club is named after a fucking energy fucking drink? In fact, they can't even name themselves after an energy drink because they tried to name themselves after an energy drink and they were like, ah, hold on a sec, yeah, fucking bullshit fucking artists. You can't fucking name a football team after a fucking energy drink, yeah, fucking nut bars. And they went, right, okay, we won't name it after an energy drink, we'll just put an RB in there, you know? Nobody will know what it means. But fucking pathetic excuse for a club. Just like Man City, man. All fur coat and no fucking knickers. Fucking just all bling and no fucking, no heart, no fucking soul. These players are going to shit themselves tonight when it comes to Ibrox, man.
It's not every year a Scottish club stands on the cusp of European glory. 14 years since Rangers last found themselves in this position as they...
This guy's got junky eyes, isn't he, man? I thought about this one for ages, man. He's like pure sunken, junky fucking knee eyebrow eyes.
Fiorentina to reach the 2008 UEFA Cup final. In terms of team news, striker Kima...
See, as opposed to Celtic Park, also known as Breeze Block City, Rangers Stadium is a listed building because it's been there so motherfucking long.
Roof and midfielder.
And we have a marble staircase. A white marble staircase.
Aaron Ramsey will be given until the last minute to prove their fitness. And the death just days ago of much-loved kitman Jimmy Bell lends tonight an altogether different dimension. A minute's...
Well, yeah, it does, but hopefully that will galvanise the players, you know. Hopefully the players will go out there and fucking play for fucking Jimmy.
Will be held before the match in his honour, and undoubtedly it will act as extra motivation for everyone at Rangers to try and get the right
Exactly,
result.
man.
As for RB Leipzig, well, they understand the occasion. They understand they're in for an intimidating atmosphere. They say they're going to try and use that for their own motivation. And in French international Christopher Nkunku, they possess one of the most dangerous talents in European football. But
shut up, man. A stupid fucking name like that. Can't be that good. Plus, we fucking didn't they fuck all in the first leg?
Reporting Scotland.
And there's full coverage of the game over on BBC Radio Scotland this
Reporting Scotland for girders.
This evening. Now, voting is underway across Scotland to elect new councillors to the country's 32 local authorities. Polls
Shug, I agree with you, mate. He's been very, very below par.
Focused on the big issues, including the cost of...
I'm hanging on. Let's put the time. I'm hanging on to. Maybe he's just not up to speed. But how the fuck's he going to get up to speed if he keeps getting injured as much as he keeps getting fucking injured? And then when he's on the park, it's not as if he's just no got legs and he's an amazing ability. He's trying balls and they're no coming off, mate. Obviously, it sounds like you're well aware, mate. It's been a severe letdown since he's came in, buddy. Severe letdown.
Living crisis, council funding and education. Now, counting will get underway tomorrow with the results announced later in the day.
Woo!
A young woman fell after she tried to climb onto a moving tractor and was killed by machinery on farmland in Aberdeenshire, an inquiry has heard. 21-year-old Carolyn Rennie died at the scene in a field near Turriff in April last year. A short fatal accident inquiry into her death was held at Banff Sheriff Court this morning. The sheriff, who expressed his condolences to Ms Rennie's family, will give his written findings later.
Just a wee bit of fucking random tragedy there, you know, if you were just a wee bit too happy there about fucking Rangers playing tonight. Boom! Random woman mauled to death with machinery. No reason to tell you, it's not really any groundbreaking news. I just wanted to tell you about some random deaths.
Now, there's been a massive rise in cases of fraud relating to video calls where we share our screens. The Financial Conduct Authority is warning that scammers are gaining access to banking and pension details through our devices. As Joanne Macaulay reports.
Platforms like Zoom and Teams have become a big part of our lives since lockdown, but now fraudsters are taking advantage of our familiarity with screen sharing. They're impersonating well-known companies to embed themselves in our devices and to gain access to sensitive material like banking, pension and investment details. The Financial Conduct Authority says this type of crime has increased by 85% in the past year, and more than
and yet
continue
to force people onto devices, even like 99-year-olds.
Saw a former teacher scammed out of tens of thousands.
Oh my god, that guy looks like he's been cut out with scissors by a 2-year-old, didn't he? What's going on?
He then allowed access to his machine.
He looks like he's been cut out by a 2-year-old.
Sums of money by the scammers. So the common word we hear when it comes to these types of scams is convincing. That's from the majority of people that contact us. And many of these scammers can seem knowledgeable about our personal affairs.
I'm sitting here laughing. I fell for fucking Royal Mail posting one.
And think carefully before clicking on any.
As soon as I'd done it, I realised I'd fucking. I was like, what a fucking dumb motherfucker.
Which doesn't seem quite right, then don't agree to it.
British Airways is cutting back flights between Inverness and London Heathrow over the summer. BA says it's merging some low occupancy flights after experiencing a challenging few weeks. Inverness Airport's general manager says he hopes to see the 7 a.m. Heathrow flight reinstated soon. Now, a citizen science project is asking people to count bugs on their car number plates, which suggests that flying insects in Scotland have declined nearly 30% in less than 20 years. Experts are calling the trend worrying and say bugs
climate change
contributing to a healthy environment. No doubt
climate change,
weather for
of course.
Bugs. Let's find out what the weather holds in store with Callum.
Good afternoon, Graham, and good afternoon, folks. Well, it was a cloudy old morning out there, dreich for some, as we can see here from our weather watcher in Fort William, all courtesy of warm sector conditions. What do I mean by that? Well, it's the fairly humid area.
Oh my god, he's like a wee Scottish leprechaun, isn't he? We don't get leprechauns up here, but if we did, they would look like him.
Eastwards.
Need to go dreich.
So out there this afternoon, lots of clouds, which will be producing some rain and drizzle, most prevalent across the west, northwest Highlands, but elsewhere, spots now and again in the wind. But given the southwesterly flow direction, we'll see some good breaks to the high ground across the northeast of Scotland, where temperatures could reach as high as locally 18 degrees Celsius. A few breaks further south too.
All that way just to pick up a chicken.
Across the western mainland, the rain gets its act together, some heavy bursts.
Oh my
god, some of
just
that spilling in across eastern areas too. But look at those temperatures, a mild old night there. Temperatures no lower than 10 to 12 degrees Celsius. So into tomorrow, it's a wet start to the day, a cloudy start. We've got that rain, particularly across southwestern areas.
Right, let's see if we get some RT fucking news.
As skies brighten from the north. But an occlusion will arrive across northern Scotland, bringing a few showers here. Then into the weekend, high pressure arrives for Saturday. Not too bad conditions, often dry, but then as it slides away to the east by Sunday, increasing risk of some showers in the west. So variable, often large, amounts of
Alan, if we want to go for a
Saturday,
wee wander, I think we should be okay
tomorrow. In the north and west. That's you up to date on the weather front.
Callum, thank you for that. And that is all for now. We're back at 6:30 tonight. But from all of us in the lunchtime team, enjoy your afternoon. Bye-bye.
Enjoy! Boop. Boop. Oh, thank you, BBC. Yeah. Chipped up. Oh, gee, me, man. Such a lightweight. And I need to get going soon, but we'll time for a wee bit of the RTs. If we're going to get it, who knows? Now it says the news is next.
Я уже понимала, что это все, это уже конец, потому что...
I'll use it directly from the horse's mouth. Have you seen what's happening in China land, man? They're having more lockdowns and whatnot. Some nights as well, I'm going to... Some days as well, I'm going to do the UK column again. The guys are funny. I'm just... She's sexy. I think she's sexy as fuck for some reason. No idea. And she's from my neck of the wood. That's it. As we all know, Scotland rules
the temperatures 10 in Lerwick, 20s we pushed to Birmingham, London, and
so she knows how to say Larry. I'm good with her. Good to go. Right, let's get the RTs.
So what we've got to do is identify
the going to get news.
It's crazy.
Confrontation, let it be an arms race.
Who is on offense? Very dramatic development.
I don't think RT used to be like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think RT used to be like that. I think we used to do news at the top of the hour every hour. So they must have rolled back their content. Alright, come on, man.
America is with you. I am with you.
John McCain. That's Pet. Oh no, that was... I thought that was Petrol Poroshenko, but it's not. Right, maybe this is the news starting.
As the Russian military opens a 3-day humanitarian corridor for civilians in the Azovstal plant in Mariupol, we hear from those evacuated from the facility about the nightmare they've had to endure.
We're so grateful. We have no words to express our gratitude. We can breathe air, fresh air. We were 2 months under fire. It was scary to go out. By that time, we were just hoping.
A Ukrainian journalist and government critic is arrested in Spain as Kiev seeks his extradition. That's despite his prior refugee status in the EU. Here on the block's top diplomat, Josep Borrell, says cutting gas supplies from Russia is out of the question. That's as the European Union Commission proposes a new round of sanctions on Russian energy. And the US is expected to pass a bill which could leave OPEC members open to lawsuits. It was announced immediately after the head of the oil cartel said there was no current possibility to replace Russian oil.
Well, nothing groundbreaking, I suppose.
4 in the afternoon here in Moscow this Thursday, May the 5th. My name's Ewan O'Neill. Welcome to the News Roundup on RT.
Aye, McCain was ball deep with Peanut until he croaked it. Am I right in saying he croaked it when he's deep, John McCain?
To leave the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol. The Russian military has also announced a 3-day pause in hostilities. Russian and Donetsk Republic forces will cease all military activity while the humanitarian routes are in operation, with troops also removed to a safe distance. Earlier, more than 100 local civilians left the plant. We heard from those evacuated to a town in Donetsk about what they've had to endure.
It was very scary. Before, we were 2 months under fire. It was scary to go out. By that time, we were just hoping. Any slightest opportunity and you need to leave.
So funny.
Because there may not be another chance.
To watch
so
this
the decision was made right away.
After watching the BBC.
We're so grateful. We have no words to express our gratitude.
Now, a lot of people have to believe one or the other.
Connections have already
I can't understand both of them, all like spinning and twisting.
Relatives. We can breathe air, fresh air. You can walk on the ground, on the
Afternoon
grass.
Cheech, how
it's a
you
dungeon
doing?
there, almost like 3 floors down below the earth. It was shaking. We were afraid that the ceiling would fall.
I think everyone is glad that everything is over. Silence has come. I walked with the kids today. When we had entered Avestal, it was still snowing. And when we came out, there we saw the grass. We walked around with the kids, breathed fresh air.
Jeez, you know what, I've just realised that BBC News didn't even touch on that.
Attempts to evacuate civilians from the Azovstal factory had been
Although before 1 o'clock, it was all over the news.
Were repeatedly violated by Ukrainian forces. Officials from the Donetsk People's Republic also say Kiev used the ceasefires to send weapons to soldiers in the plant. Well, Russian territory came under fire this morning, with local authorities saying Ukrainian forces shelled a town in the Belgorod region, just a number of kilometres from the border. 5 houses were damaged, with one entirely destroyed. No injuries were reported among the locals. Power lines have also said to be damaged. Belgorod's governor said all houses hit by
You're
shelling
an Aberdeen supporter,
will be
Method, is that what you're
rebuilt.
saying? We're red, you're dead, we're bouncing on your head, we're Aberdeen, we're Aberdeen. That's one of the best football songs I've ever heard. You probably wouldn't be allowed to sing that anymore at football, you know. It's not only been gentrified, it's been pussified. You're not allowed to... People look at you as if you've got 10 heads if you swear at the football now, man.
Claims of an attempted
Crazy.
assassination, which Kiev accuses him of faking. He is a prominent critic of Vladimir Zelensky and other politicians, with almost 3 million YouTube subscribers on his channel. He's accused of treason by the Zelensky government. This year, the party he founded was suspended along with other opposition parties. And in 2022, Lithuania annulled Shari's refugee status.
Oh, you're a high
Kiev
B,
says
man.
He was arrested in cooperation
What
with
are they doing this
Ukrainian
season? I don't
authorities.
even
He's been placed
registered,
under a
mate, but they
travel
are, to be
ban
quite honest.
and could face extradition. We've asked the Spanish Interior Ministry for comment on that. Civil and international law specialist Maria Yarmush says the possible extradition will put
Easy for
Mr.
him to
Shari
say.
in a precarious position.
Shari is persecuted for political reasons, and that's the legal basis for Interpol to refuse to issue a notice for him. Lithuania's decision to lift his refugee status is politicized and shows its unwillingness to openly go against Ukrainian authorities and other EU countries. Amid what's happening in Ukraine, where the political opponents of the Kiev regime are disappearing, I think Kiev won't provide a normal legal process for Anatoly Shari. He will likely end up being tortured. It's almost unreal for him to get justice and to protect his life, health and freedom. I'm not even talking about his reputation. That means in the event of extradition, the Spanish court will basically send him to his
I've
death.
done not too well then, mate.
Now, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell has claimed the closure of the Russian gas tap is not under discussion. The energy source, unlike oil,
I used
will be impossible to
I used to work across the roads in Denniston for a snooker club.
The oil market is global and there are alternative procurers.
McCoy's
There may be
and
moments
Higgins
of transition
and a
and
few
some
other.
turbulence in prices, but there is no serious
Well, we
problem
do
of
snooker
saying,
dudes used
if
to
I run out
have a
of Russian
table
oil,
in,
I will raise the
and
price a lot because there will not be oil. This is not
we
the
used to
case
know
with
the-
oil.
the-
With
the-
gas,
the-
it's a different
the
problem.
son
Gas,
of
to
the
begin
owners
with, is not
who
only an
worked
energy
behind the bar.
product.
We used to
It is not
go in
only
there
used to
quite
make
a lot,
heat.
so we worked
Gas
across
is
the
a raw
road.
material in the
And we
petrochemical
became
industry.
friendly with him,
And the
and he used to
petrochemical
allow
industry
us
in
into
Europe and in
the
particular in
VIP
Germany
snooker
weighs a lot.
hang up the,
Gas
up the,
cannot be
up the
replaced
stairs
by
and-
anything other than gas. Gas from Russia or
Shit hot,
somewhere
man.
else, but it must be gas. And that is why we are especially careful about gas, because
Could
there are
do what we
entire
wanted
sectors
up
of the
there, if you
European
get me.
petrochemical industry that cannot function if it does not have gas. That topic is not under discussion at the moment. We have been discussing a lot this week, and I was in Latin America, but I was on the phone all the time and the discussions did not include gas.
Well, we'll delve into the ramifications of that statement in the coming hours.
Sullivan always wins. He doesn't even need to try.
Staying with the energy
He just
theme,
wins when he wants
because
to.
The US Senate is expected to pass a bill that could leave OPEC members and their partners open to legal action. That would allow federal courts to enforce judicial antitrust decisions against them. Let's break that down. It's quite dense. Both OPEC member states and oil companies are currently protected by sovereign immunity laws. The bill in question is apparently intended to protect US consumers and businesses from supply cuts and global oil price hikes by OPEC members. The proposed law comes amid growing tensions between Washington and the oil cartel members after OPEC refused to increase production in March and recently claimed there was, quote, no spare capacity to replace sanctioned Russian oil supplies. Well, let's cross live now to Professor Edmund Garib, expert on US Middle East relations. Pleasure to have you on the programme today, sir.
The talking heads RT get are hilarious, man.
At punishing OPEC countries than protecting US consumers. How fair is that accusation?
They get beat 1-0 in the last leg, mate. Tonight's the second leg at Ibrox, and we're 1-0 down.
Several of
so we need 2 goals.
Have already made it clear.
1 goal to take it extra time and penalties. 2 goals to win.
Position of the United States when it comes to imposing sanctions. Also, they have said made it
second
clear.
legs tonight, Cheech. 8 o'clock.
To the United States, countries such as Saudi Arabia, that they do not have the capacity, the capability to increase the production of oil in a significant way so that it would dramatically affect and substitute for Russian exports to the EU and to other areas. I mean, this is an important message that it's being sent, I think, from a number of countries in the region that they want to maintain some distance and some balance in terms of the relationship. And also they are still...
Thank fuck for that, man.
They want to implement the agreement that was reached between Russia and OPEC about oil prices after the difficulties that emerged like a couple of years ago.
All right, very interesting.
No, Rab, the illegal rule's been lifted. I don't know if it's permanently or it's just been lifted because of COVID. I really don't know.
Well, clearly, I mean, this is going to have tremendous.
But I know that it's not in play at the moment. Whether it's coming back next season or not, when things go back to normality, who knows?
Fulfill its promises. What the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen wanted to block or ban all crude oil, basically within 6 months, and then oil, basically that is shipped from Russia.
I'm looking forward to finding out the result. But the game itself is just squeaky bum time.
To see support from all the members of the European Union. Hungary, for example, has said that it needs more time to phase out Russian oil.
You can get a stream, no problem at all, man.
Demands, and that requires 3 to 5 years.
I subscribe to BT Sports, so I'm alright, but I'll show you, I'll let you know
on Russia, the ban on Russia. Also, there have been reports, and I don't know how accurate that is, that Slovakia, Hungary, of course, Malta, Cyprus, Greece are not ready to support the position of the EU Commission President. And now, if this is true, that's going to make it very difficult to implement that plan. But assuming it is implemented, there's no doubt that this will have a tremendous impact on Russian economy.
You can even get Rangers TV if you fancy it.
Russia from the market, the European market. Now, the Russians have other markets that they are looking at, and that's what, from what I understand, President Putin has also asked Russian oil officials to begin to reach out to other sources, for example, especially in Asia.
Go back there later on tonight.
Are likely to continue.
The only pain in the arse, mate, is that they only really stream the game. They don't do the talking heads before and after it. That's why
some of the
I'm happy
is going to be bought at discounted
pay for the subscription
prices. So that will also have some impact on the Russian economy. Nevertheless, Russia, because of the increase in oil prices, and we've seen yesterday the oil prices after the news about the oil ban in Europe rose to about $110 a barrel. Now, there are some experts who are saying this could reach something like $200 a barrel. Well, that also is likely to benefit Russia if the price goes up, even though the exports will decline. Nevertheless, the price will make the difference. So it is a very fluid, very complicated situation. It's also going to have an impact on the economy, not only of Europe, but even of the United States.
On that point, because it's a big unknown for Washington as well, isn't it? How will this bill affect U.S. oil markets?
Well, that's clearly, I mean, we're going to see, on the one hand, American oil, probably there would be more oil sold outside the United States than before. Nevertheless, it's not as easy as some people
usually
think. For example,
to be
shale
honest,
oil,
but for some
much
reason,
more complicated,
I think it's just
even
because
though
there aren't
it's not
any
a problem you can throw money at. It's going to take time.
games right
It's
now,
going
which would make sense.
to be able to increase effectively, enlarge the capacity of export of shale oil. So that means
there's
that it's going to be limited, and also it's beginning to affect
links that you should
prices,
definitely be
as
able
we
to get
already
the
have
stream
seen
for.
over the past month in the United States. Oil prices are rising. This is going to have negative consequences on the administration that's facing a lot of difficulties with the midterm election coming up in November, especially because of the rise in inflation, the increasing rise of prices of food, of gas, and of other commodities. In addition to that, you have the divisions in the United States, the political divisions that exist between.
See, it's weird, right? Like Russia Today used to talk about different things from its Western counterparts. See now, it pretty much talks about both talk about exactly the same talking points, just from different angles.
On the American market itself. So it's not,
you know, beforehand they weren't openly facing each other with the pugil sticks out, whacking each other. Now they just seem to be going, standing in front of each other, going blow for blow. See whose bullshit lands the best.
Mozambique has ruled out the possibility of giving up on coal mining in order to meet UN emissions
tried to watch
by
Fury and get porn
2030.
instead.
The government claims the global targets do not take into
mate, like,
consideration
see if I was
realities
up
in the African
and
nation.
stuff, I would
now, coal remains
watch
one of Mozambique's
a
main
boxing match and stuff, but I wouldn't stay up the
sources.
the clock times that they're asking.
Sanctions,
Although that one was at Wembley, so it couldn't have been at that stupid
energy sources have caused coal prices to more than double since the beginning
And it was
of the
a
year.
good uppercut that you
Demand
got
is
to
on the
knock the
rise
cunt
since
out, man.
the outbreak of the conflict in Ukraine. Across live now to Lawrence K. Freeman, political and economic analyst on African affairs. Good to have you on the programme today. Thanks so much for joining us. So you have Maputo ruling out the possibility of abandoning coal mining.
And then he'd bake a cake in the sun using solar.
Global energy transition goals.
The African leaders are pushing back very
relying on others to feed you.
these,
Well,
UN
I think Britain
demands
is self-sufficient in food in the sense
what
that
they
we
call
wouldn't
climate
starve,
change.
but we certainly
And
would not
they
be
don't
able
give
to
up
cater for the
entirely on the
pallets that
idea, because I don't
all
think
the
they can
population
politically. But they're not gonna
is
go
used to.
along with it,
I
because
mean,
it's
that's why
actually
this
very
Ukraine shit's going to hit the UK so much. As I said, the Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. I've not seen the figures, but they supply a lot of the wheat and sunflower oil. I know that, as well as other things.
Pushing back, and they're going to do what is necessary to maintain and develop their economies, and I support them.
Age of Crocodile, I've noticed that myself, that
alone in raising
touch
concerns
on
either about energy
the American
poverty,
media,
among nations on the continent. You have the Nigerian vice
Trump is
president
definitely
also
getting
recently
set up
speaking
for
of
another run,
climate
isn't
justice
he?
for the
And,
continent. So it's not.
I see,
in
obviously,
here or
but
there.
part of
it
that
seems to be
is
spreading across
highlighting Biden's and
yes, I mean, not only do you have the vice president who has been outspoken recently of
Senile-ism. Highlight the fact that Biden looks like he's going old and senile.
Museveni of Uganda has spoken out. The energy minister in South Africa has spoken out. Because what is
stock up in toilet roll.
the financial institutions in Western
like method, you're right, the doomsayers on YouTube are stocking up their bunkers, but they're always stocking up their bunkers. If it's not this thing, it's another thing. If it's not that thing, it's that thing. If it's not this thing, it's that thing. I learnt my lesson about fucking thinking nuclear Armageddon or World War III is going to happen with Syria. Now, in reality, Syria was Russia versus the West. I think in some occasions it was pretty much exactly Russia on the West, but mercenaries. And at the time, because of all the fucking doom shit coming through all angles, I was convinced it was going to escalate and stuff when Russian jets started getting shot down and they started doing chemical weapon attacks and blaming it on Russia and the white helmets and the whole fucking barrage of bullshit that went with Syria. And Russia and Assad got the upper hand, still have the upper hand, and nobody talks about Syria anymore. But I learnt my lesson from that in the sense that don't listen to either side. It's their job to hype you up to think that it's the end of the world, because as soon as you are in a state of fear, you're more pliable. You're easier to control or fill your head with bullshit and stuff, and it's not a negative reflection on yourself. It's just a hardcore reality of being a human being. We're susceptible to fucking being persuaded to believe somebody's bullshit.
If you look at the amount of energy available,
so all the doomsayers and all that about Ukraine, the nuclear weapon shit is just pathetic. I mean, you only hear people that read headlines saying that, because at no point is it anywhere there Putin even mentions the word nuclear. So how can you threaten to use nuclear weapons when you don't use the word nuclear? It's impossible. It's all interpretation, spin and fear-mongering bullshit.
Which is very capable of supplying energy needs.
I know who that Irish nut Sheridan is, man. In fact, I've got some of his. I've got one of his clips from next Tuesdays, not the InfoWars Nightly News. He's a fucking Fruit Loop and a half, man.
Why then? And I know you've touched on
it. And do you know what's scary? There's thousands of fucking Fruit Loop people that listen to him that fucking think he's speaking to about some sense. The guy said that he had a cave in his back garden or somewhere that he knows where he can go, and the cave goes down to the centre of the earth, and he's went down there hundreds of times, and every time he goes down his fucking phone stops working and he can't film it. He might as well fucking kid on he's a real life leprechaun and he's got a fucking pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You know what I mean? And like, people believe that guy's shite. Drip off him, man. But it is mentally ill, people. You can't believe in tunnels to the centre of the earth and somebody goes down there and the camera always fails without being a fucking mentally ill fucking retard, in my humble opinion.
Nigeria has a lot of gas, but again, the
I have a lot of gas.
Anti-industrialist lobby says no, we don't even want you using gas because that releases methane and other what they call dangerous gases into the environment.
I method, honestly, that Thomas Sheridan, years ago when I done Not the InfoWars Nightly News, I wish I kept the clip, but like it's lost in the mire. I've got it in there somewhere, but...
Okay, to another part of the world now. A newly
released going through fucking all those shows and shit, man.
Palestinians without charge or trial. Apparently, the highest number since 2016. Comes as America's
I assure you, at one point he was talking about a cave that he could go down, and it went to the centre of the earth. And he's been down there, and he confirms it. And then he wrapped it up in all sorts of bullcrap mythology and shit, man. Charlatan and a half.
But when they resist their occupiers, they are called terrorists. And when these buildings are destroyed in Gaza, that's self-defense. So there is double standard that the world can see.
We have to be strong in our support and in our efforts to defend the rights
She's a little bit black Mrs. Doubtfire, isn't she?
Defend themselves against rocket attacks from Hamas and other terrorist groups. But we also are clear that Palestinians deserve peace and prosperity.
Where are you?
The backdrop to that being clashes which erupted in Jerusalem last month, in which over 100 Palestinians were injured. The Israel-Palestine conflict has been ongoing for over 70 years, with a series of conflicts taking place over land in the region. Arabs in
Somebody
Palestine
saying
are
there's
also
double
demanding the right
standards.
to have their own states.
Nah, what are you
while
talking
Israel
about,
says
man?
it is protecting itself from Palestinian attacks.
M16s versus stones and shit. That's a double standards for that. Perfect fair fight.
We are seeing the double standard from the what we call the international community, especially the United States of America and European Union. They are looking to their interests and
see, I know it hurts people's brains why America and Britain and Western interests seem to tolerate and let Israel get away with all this shit. It's because they run Israel. They are the Zionists. Zionists aren't really Jews, they're fake Jews that have been created by fundamental Christians as like a front shop, as a proxy, ring a bell, as a proxy to kick the foreign brown muck Muslims out of Palestine or Israel or whatever you want to fucking call it.
To get their rights to build their estates. You see today,
that's my humble opinion.
In Jerusalem, we are calling for these countries in the world to look at the Palestinian struggle as they are.
Because if you were a genuine Jew and you cared about Jews and Judaism and making sure
the oldest city in the
and not wanting people to like eradicate you and shit like that stuff, well, you wouldn't behave the way that the Zionists, the rulers of Israel, are acting. And look at your average Zionist. They'll get skin cancer within fucking 2 days of staying in Israel.
World War II.
Do you know the two countries in the world with the highest rates of skin cancer? Australia and Israel. I wonder why that is. It's end today with the amount of white cunts fucking staying in those countries. This is my homeland! Fucking frazzling, man! Actually cooking in the sun, cooking to the extent their skin's going like popping up fucking cancers left, right and centre, man.
Now, as you may know, the Ukraine conflict has prompted a
They've got kites and balloons,
content in many countries, including on television in the US. So it's perhaps no surprise when the prominent Fox News host Tucker Carlson offered
what can you know say on Twitter
challenging the mainstream view. It then caused something of a stir. Gail Mappin picks up the story.
In the never-ending circus that is American cable news,
here's Ginger McGinger.
Russia bad, NATO good.
Can you imagine that cunt fucking in the desert? You know, in the middle of the Sahara. This is my homeland! I'm melting!
We arm Ukraine so that we can punish Russia.
I wouldn't be much better, man. I wouldn't fucking when they survive a long year.
He sees it. This is an unjust
a wee bit longer than that cunt, man. Fucking Ginger McGinger here, man. He'd be dead in fucking 30 seconds in the fucking...
so much about protecting Ukrainians as it is about hurting Russia, and that regime change is the goal. Biden's words seem like pretty solid evidence for that.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain
Zionists.
Let's remember that some of the main
promoters... You know, like you say the word Zionist on fucking Twitter?
True, that somehow Russia got Trump elected, have just rolled into Kiev.
And so our commitment is to be there for you until the fight.
She's like fucking Skeletor, isn't she, man?
America is in this to win it. And we will stand with Ukraine until victory is won.
We are proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine, and we will until victory is won.
Tucker Carlson is just not impressed. Liberals are furious that he dare be skeptical of the liberal war hawks.
Tucker Carlson is again parroting what the war criminals in the Kremlin say. Biden should push Ukraine to surrender, reach a settlement rather than lose more lives fighting.
Did you hear Lavrov coming out and talking about Hitler having Jewish blood
from the
and people having a fucking meltdown, man?
Tucker Carlson tonight blaming America for Putin's war.
And there's a lot of historians that agree that Hitler's dad, Hitler's grandfather, had Jewish blood.
America night after night.
The whole generation of Russian
just like you can't, just like Jeremy Corbyn,
haunted by their memories.
fucking was getting bombarded and
have never seen
slagged off for reminding people that Hitler worked with the Zionist party. He was going to shift all the Jews to Ethiopia.
But that's a bit hard to believe.
Can you imagine all the white cunts in Ethiopia, man? It would fucking, I think Ethiopia would fucking kill them quicker than Israel would, man. I'm melting!
And it's doing well in some interesting demographics, including youth. His shows are having an impact. Here's what a member of Congress said.
My office is now getting calls from folks who say they watch Tucker Carlson and are upset that we're not siding with Russia in its threats to invade Ukraine, and who want me to support Russia's reasonable positions.
Carlson's message is being echoed by Rand Paul as he asks questions about the Biden administration and their policy decisions.
The U.S., including the Biden administration, insisted on beating the drums to admit Ukraine to NATO, knowing full well that Ukraine was unlikely to ever join NATO since it had already been 14 years since they said they were going to become members. Why was it so important last fall, before this invasion, to continue agitating for Ukraine's admission to NATO?
And liberals are reacting to Rand Paul the same way. Treason. Mainstream U.S. media is pretty solidly locked down for war, but the fact that one single voice speaking up and asking some tough questions is getting such a dramatic response from the public seems to indicate that there's something going on beneath the surface. While there are certainly plenty of Americans that are buying the Pentagon's talking points, it seems like there are also a large number of Americans that are open to hearing the other forbidden side of the story.
I know, mate.
Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
I don't know how legitimate this is, but I remember when Ron Paul first came out, it was doing the rounds that his grandfather or great-grandfather was an SS officer, and their name was Paul, or like a German version of Paul, and they just changed it to Paul because they're German. I don't know how real or fake it was. I've searched for the pictures and articles again and couldn't find them. But that was years ago, actually. I've now lost interest. Right, that was a wee bit of the RTs as well, and BBC's, so news from all sides. So again, if you do appreciate Wag Dog News, stick a wee thumbs up, it is much appreciated. I'm off to take some of my mum's blinds down, I think. So happy days. Have a good weekend. Well, I'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, as usual, I think. To do another Wag Dog News. Thumbs it up. Thanks everybody that's joined. Cheech Method in the afternoon, gents. Rab, Age of Crocodilla, Shug and McVicker in the afternoon, gents. Devon was in earlier as well. Roberto Carlos and A from Australia. Thank you very much, everybody. Tune in tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Have a good Thursday, y'all. And come on, Jazz! Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe and hit the bell. Everything will be well in 1995. Plus, shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Why does a dog wag its tail? Because a dog is smarter than its tail. If the tail were smarter, the tail would wag the dog. Wag the dog in politics is the act of creating diversion from a damaging issue. Here at Wag the Dog News, the tail doesn't wag the dog. Enjoy. Clip. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the bell. Everything will be well. 1995. Plus, shipping and handling will keep you out of hell.